A look back at the week that was on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Friday, June 1st, 2012. I'm Sarah Colvin. The Kennedy Legacy Trail is now open, up and running. On Tuesday, the ribbon was cut, signifying the official opening of the trail.
For the residents of Barnstable, for those of us who have lived here and think of Cape Cod as our home, we also think of the Kennedy family as having been our friends and our neighbors. And for those of us who grew up here while they were, President Kennedy was in office and Senator Kennedy was, of course, alive and around all the time. You know, we remember things like the summer White House out on Squaw Island. We remember Marine One landing on the same grassy field at a lawn in front of the Kennedy compound where, you know, they'd once played touch football. We remember the speech at the Armory when President Kennedy, or President Kennedy-elect, accepted that nomination as the presidency. So those are things that some of us have lived through, and we, as I say, we thought of the Kennedys more as our friends and neighbors. As generations have passed since that time, and this is the 95th birthday, this would have been the 95th birthday of President Kennedy. As time has passed, new generations, like the students from Sturgis School that we have here today, they hear about those stories from us. All right, are we ready? Can people count to three? One, two, three.
The trail is made up of 10 interactive stops along a 1.6-mile route, starting at the JFK Museum on Main Street in Hyannis. Well, Barnstable and the rest of the Cape has been abuzz about a bear, a black bear that was spotted early Sunday morning here in Barnstable. Chief of Police Paul McDonald confirmed rumors for us on Tuesday's show.
We started receiving calls Sunday morning early between 6 and 7:30. We received a couple of calls, but we had no confirmation on it. Throughout the day, we tracked it. We notified Natural Resources. We notified the Environmental Police. Later on that afternoon, Sunday afternoon, we received additional calls in the area of Route 6A and High Street. At that time, we felt that it was a confirmation that enough people have seen it. We thought we should take some extra precautions. That's when we sent out a reverse 911 call to the villages West Barnstable and Barnstable. That includes about 4,000 people that we notified, just to be aware that the bear is in the area. Take in the bird feeders, cover your garbage, take extra precaution. And everyone that we've talked to, all the experts say the bear is harmless. It's not going to harm a human being. It's a relatively shy animal. If it sees a human, it's probably going to go in the other direction.
Animal Control Officer Charlie Lewis, who joined us Wednesday, says this is a very rare sighting indeed.
In all the years I've been here myself, 60 plus now, when I was a youngster and talking about different issues of wildlife, it was always deer. There was never a mention of a bear at all. And even talking to my grandparents when they were alive, they never saw a bear either. So it certainly is interesting.
The bear made its way from Barnstable to Yarmouth and Dennis on Wednesday, was seen in Brewster on Thursday. Last we've heard, it was in Orleans today. On Wednesday, Acting Town Manager Tom Lynch and Town Councilor Mike Hersey joined DPW Director Mark Ells and Water Pollution Control Facility Manager Peter Doyle for a tour of that facility.
Well, I thought it was important to get an idea of exactly how the facility works, based on the fact that we've been asked in the past to fund increased sewer capacity, and to get a first-hand look at the facility and to get knowledge from the Director of Public Works, Mark, and Peter, who runs the facility here. So I thought it was important to get that knowledge before we're asked to vote on. From college, I had a small background on, tertiary treatment plants, so I had the basic idea of how they operated. It was interesting to note that the facility runs at slightly less than 50% capacity, and and I can tell you when it was built in the 70s and 80s, there used to be an odor issue, and as we're standing amongst it right now, there really isn't.
I mean, in terms of the whole importance of clean water, wastewater here, really in the town of Barnstable and also in Precinct 3, obviously something that's a very important issue to you, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the new pump station is right in front of the High West School. That was an issue, that was done in anticipation of sewering out by Wequaquet Lake and the Centerville areas and that whole thing. which hasn't been supported. But after hearing the tour today, and there is some capacity coming down from the high school and stuff like that, so instead of having to have all that go all the way down to South Street and then get pumped back to here, they'll pump it up Lincoln Road now and cut off a couple miles. So I think in the short run that makes sense. In the long run, when ultimately, if it does get sewer, the western part of the town, that'll be an important piece of the puzzle.
Town Council Town Manager Contract Subcommittee is hammering out the details of the 2-year contract recently offered to Acting Town Manager Tom Lynch. Council President Fred Chirigotis says work should wrap up soon.
Last meeting, we voted to extend a contract to Tom Lynch for 2 years. There is a committee that is working on drafting and negotiating a contract with Tom Lynch to to set the finances on that. To me, that is very important and exciting because it creates within the town stability, within our employees, it creates stability within the department heads. It allows us to continue moving on stable fashion in a positive direction, and I think that's really, really exciting.
Council meets on June 7th at 7 p.m. The state budget process is in the works. Cape and Islands State Senator Dan Wolf joined us Tuesday. He commented on the process.
It's still a very tough environment from a budget standpoint because the economy still really hasn't recovered. So I have yet to see, this is only my second budget since I became state senator, I've yet to see sort of an unconstrained budget process where there are funds that are really adequate to fund both, the education that's so important from a state level, environmental protection, investments in our economy as represented both by investment in infrastructure and also support of what we've talked about in the past, workforce training, workforce development, really supporting the workers out there, and human and social service programs. So, it is sort of it's a real struggle because just when you think you have your priorities straight, you realize, oh my God, it's just, here's another priority and we just don't have the money for everything. So it's a frustrating process. It's a real scramble. As you probably know, 694 amendments were filed to the budget. So a lot of the process that we go through in the 2.5 days that we debate the budget has to do with looking at the amendments and, sort of a scramble to see what can we do in addition to what the basic budget has. Each one of those amendments used to sort of be discussed in its own merits, and the budget process would literally go on, from what I hear, for days and possibly even weeks. Now it's really been shortened down. So most of those amendments simply go down on what's called a voice vote, which means that there really isn't ever any debate on it. And then the more important ones, they are debated on the floor, some of the big ones, as you know. So it's a fast process. Sometimes it goes on with dizzying speed. A lot of time these amendments, by the time they actually come up for a vote, they're amended or a further amendment is added onto them. And I think a lot of times legislators are voting without exactly being sure whether they're voting on the First Amendment or a redraft or a further amendment, but because it just goes so fast.
And just a final reminder to our viewers, the Best Buddies charity bike ride is coming to town on Saturday. Be aware that roads in and around the Craigville Beach area could be clogged with cyclists and onlookers. Do drive carefully and keep an eye out for bikers. With Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Colvin.